The decision has been made. Once it's made, it cannot be retracted or changed. This means that Hùng will definitely have to leave his current position and take on an entirely new role. But what's so scary about changing jobs? In reality, Hùng biggest fear isn't about the job itself, but how he'll balance it with his family. He knows well that one wrong decision, just one careless move, and Hoài Ca and Tony, the two most important people in his life, will once again face danger. And this time, the danger could be even more severe than before. Hùng stands at a crossroads. On one side is his career, a duty and responsibility he cannot ignore. On the other side is his family love and the peace he wants to protect. Choosing wrongly means losing everything. Choosing wisely doesn't necessarily guarantee safety. He has to calculate sacrifice and make trade-offs. But how far is he willing to go? Will he find a way to keep both his job and protect Hoài Ca and Tony? Or, in the end, will he have to sacrifice one to save the other? Stay tuned to see how Hùng handles this, which path he will choose. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to catch the next developments. At that moment, in the police chief's office, the atmosphere felt more suffocating than ever. Everything seemed to be going as usual, but his eyes looked different. The chief stared at the transfer decision in his hands, a sense of regret filling his heart. He had watched Hùng grow over the years, a model cop skilled and dedicated to his work. But no matter what, a decision had been made, and there was nothing he could do but follow the orders from above. This wasn't easy for him. The chief sighed, a feeling of pain and helplessness suddenly washing over him. He looked at the outstanding officer certificates Hùng had earned over the years, and then slowly put them away, not daring to look back. Each certificate was proof of sacrifice, tireless effort. But now, all of that was just history. Meanwhile, Hùng was ready to face the challenges ahead. He knew that no matter how hard he tried, a decision had already been made, and he had to move forward. He adjusted his clothes. His motorcycle, which had been with him for years, waited silently. As Hùng sped through familiar streets, when he reached his destination, he stopped in front of the building where he worked. He gently stepped off the bike, knowing this was a major turning point, a new door opening, but wondering if he could maintain the same determination and spirit he had in the past. The police chief invited Hùng to sit down, and once he was settled, the chief spoke. "I'm truly sorry about your situation." The chief said, his voice warm but heavy. "I know you're a highly experienced officer, one of the best in the field, but your family situation, it's really difficult. We understand and appreciate all the contributions you've made to the community's safety. However, the higher-ups have made their decision, and there's nothing I can do about it." He paused for a moment, his eyes lingering on the certificates on the desk before looking back at Hùng. "I didn't want this to happen, but you also understand we have to follow orders." Hùng sat silently, not showing any emotion, though inside a storm of anger was rising. He understood everything was due to orders, but his heart couldn't stop churning. He had sacrificed so much for this job, but now everything was changing because of a decision from above. The chief gently lifted the transfer decision and the outstanding officer certificate Hùng had earned over the years, placing them on the table. He looked at Hùng sincerely, as if trying to convey all his sympathy and regret. This is recognition for everything you've done so far. I hope you continue to contribute and succeed in your new role. Hùng felt as though the world was collapsing in front of him. Everything he had worked for over the years, his family, his job, the relationships he valued seemed to be slipping through his fingers. He didn't want this at all. The thought of having to transfer so far from home to be away from Hoài Ca and Tony was something Hùng had never imagined. But now, the decision had been made, and whether he liked it or not, he had to face it. Hùng sat in the office, staring blankly at the transfer decision in his hands. He had begged his boss for more time, just a little bit, to sort out his work and family matters. He wanted more time to say goodbye, to mentally prepare for this big change. But everything was happening so quickly, no one had given him that chance. He was still dealing with debt. His life was far from stable. And now he had to face the worst, being separated from Hoài Ca and Tony once again. Hùng boss, who had been through so much with him over the years, understood his situation, but he couldn't go against the higher-ups. This was part of Hùng job. Sometimes it forced him to accept decisions he didn't want. With regret, his boss could only sigh and look at Hùng with eyes full of sympathy. "Hùng, I understand your situation, but I can't go against orders from above," the chief said, his voice dropping heavy with the weight of the words. "This is an order, and I can't change it. You're a talented officer, but sometimes we have to follow the rules. We have no other choice." Hùng sat in silence, holding the transfer paper, his mind in turmoil. He couldn't accept the reality, but he knew that whether he wanted to or not, life had to go on. He looked into his boss's eyes, feeling the sympathy there, but still couldn't hold back his emotions. Then a thought suddenly crossed Hung's mind. He couldn't leave without sorting everything out. Hùng looked at his boss and said, "Chief, if possible, could I have one more week? Just 1 week, so I can arrange my family matters, and then I'll go to the new station. I know you can't go against the higher-ups, but I really need this time." His boss looked at him for a long moment, his gaze filled with hesitation. He understood that Hùng was in a difficult spot, and he knew this was Hung's only chance to get everything in order. After a moment of thought, the chief finally spoke. "All right, Hùng, I'll give you a week. But you have to promise me you'll report to the new station once things settle down. I can't go against orders, but I'll give you this time." Hùng couldn't hide his gratitude. This was the last bit of mercy he could get from his boss. He bowed his head in thanks and promised he wouldn't disappoint him. These words weren't just an agreement from his boss. They were a mutual understanding, an unspoken goodbye that they both understood. They both stood up, shaking hands in a moment of silence as if it were a farewell. Hùng felt heavy as he looked into his old boss's eyes. He had always been his guide, but now their paths were separating. "Thank you, Chief. I won't let you down," Hùng said, his voice choked, unable to fully express the emotions rising inside him. After the handshake, Hùng turned and walked out each step, feeling heavier than the last. He knew he would never see his boss again, and a quiet sadness overwhelmed him. Hoài Ca sat alone in the house, quietly looking out the window. She had been waiting all morning, but Hùng still hadn't come home. Every day, he would return on time, but today was different. She could sense that something wasn't right. He had left early this morning, saying he had to go to work to take care of some important tasks. But now it was afternoon, and there was still no word from him. An inexplicable feeling of unease kept circling in her chest like a wave constantly rolling. Hùng had never made her worry like this before. She knew he was strong, always able to handle anything, but today she just couldn't shake off the feeling of discomfort. She decided she couldn't sit still any longer. Hoài Ca went outside to the garden where she had spent so much time tending to the flowers and plants. She had bought 2 new plants a while ago, and today she decided it was time to plant them. These plants weren't just small joys in her life. They were part of making the neighborhood more beautiful and creating a peaceful space for the family. She began digging small holes, carefully ensuring the soil was loose. Sweat dotted her forehead, but the work seemed to help her push away some of the anxiety she was feeling. Hoài Ca spent the entire afternoon planting the flowers. She adjusted the soil beds, tended to each plant, adding new colors to the garden. The calm and quiet of the task seemed to help her temporarily forget her worries. But no matter what, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with Hùng. She kept thinking about him, about the difficulties he might be facing. She knew Hùng was a very responsible person, but she also understood that sometimes life can be beyond control. He had faced so many challenges at work, and this time it might be the biggest one yet. She wondered if he could overcome all these difficulties while still protecting their family and holding on to his job. Or would he have to sacrifice something, perhaps family, or perhaps his career to save the other? Tomorrow, Hùng would continue to face challenges, and Hoài Ca would always be there ready to face them together. But would they be able to keep everything intact? Or would they have to sacrifice one side to save the other? Only time would tell.